Hi.
Hi, can you guys hear this?
Yes. Okay.
Excellent.
Sorry for the troubleshooting. So I guess this AMA was inspired by a lot of the Telegram conversations we've been having recently. So I guess the best way to go about this is just anyone who wants to shoot any question, feel free to shoot. Sorry.
Do you want to start with the questions? Can you see the questions there?
Yes. Sorry. Sure. Okay, so the first question by M. Cultra. So in order for the community to get a better feel for the team infrastructure that is in place, can you please provide the following data? First, 1 second. Okay, guys, thank you. Yeah, thank you, Crypto Chef. So yes, first, who is on the team currently and what are their specific responsibilities? And secondly, there have been comments that the team has been looking to fill several new positions for 5+ months. What is taking so long to fill these positions? Sure. So I'll explain. So I want to start with the second thing. As said on Telegram, we've had issues retaining or hiring team members due to the fact that we did our sale in the end of the year. So after that, in February, our bank account was closed. It took us till May in order to get that back up and running, to have a stable way to make payments to people who need to get paid. The reason that happened to us, surprisingly, despite having that banking relationship being long established and in good standing, is because Israel decided to go on strike, essentially. So all the Israeli banks essentially stopped servicing any kind of company that had anything to do with blockchain or Bitcoin or anything like that. And so it took us a few months to get a new account up and running. From there, we went to Genesis, and now we're hiring people. We have hired 2 people since we started, since I think the Genesis, more or less, which is Dor and David. David is essentially the guy who's doing a lot of our QA, a lot of our DevOps. He's starting to learn how to, he's a junior developer as well, managing the repository, just generally doing a very, very good job with respect to making sure all the nitty-gritty tasks of development that need to get done are being upkept by him. Ash, do you think that would be an accurate explanation? David? Hello? Ash? Ash? Yeah, guys, I'm sorry. 1 second. We have some maybe technical issues. Anyways, so that's the description. Guys, can you hear me? The guys in the chat, like Crypto Chef. Oh, Crypto Chef, can you hear me? Okay, thank you. Thank you, guys. Thank you. I appreciate it. So, okay, so that's David. With regards to the other person, Dor is essentially taking on all the administrative tasks that we have. So everything to deal with essentially the operations, et cetera. That's what Dor is doing. Yeah, basically all the administrative tasks she's helping out with. Let me go back to the question now that I've explained the 2 people you hired. Who is on the team currently? What are their specific responsibilities? Okay, so I want to talk about the team. That's an issue which is a deep one, but I guess that this is a question to address it in. I want to go into my issues with, essentially having a team, who's on it, etc. While we have a development company based here out of Israel, I don't think it would be smart to, and this is like a question I'm opening up to the community, I don't think it would be necessarily smart to differentiate here who is on the team and who isn't on the team, because I think it would alienate people and saying, okay, since you're not on this team, then the incentive for you to contribute to the project is lower because you feel that, why am I not getting the accreditation? Ash floated around a very good idea saying maybe we should have essentially just a page of the people who are contributing to our repository, but then you have a lot of people in the community who are contributing a lot, but who are not necessarily writing code. So for example, some of these people are the people you see in Telegram chat all day. CryptoShift, Alex, and Kultra. These people are, even if they're not deploying code, they're very much contributing to the project. And I think it would be unfair to draw a line. And if you do draw a line, then and Sun, yes, of course, Sun is also a huge contributor to the project. And sorry about that, Sun. I love you. And so the question here is, right, where do you draw the line? And if you draw the line, I'm just saying, let's say, right, theoretically, let's say we drew the line at, okay, CryptoShift, Alex, and Kultra Sun, those are the guys who are on the quote unquote team. Then would maybe the other active community members, like let's say Flea Market, for example, or whoever it may be, become disincentivized to keep participating? So I guess it's kind of Coco's offended. I can see. So no, this is a real question that I think we as a community have to deal with. Where do we want to draw the line here on this? What are the risks that we face by alienating people, turning them away from the project? So it really is an open question. I thought that face to face, I understand the need for us to be accountable. I think that I'm answering that need right now by putting my face on this and showing that I have a reputation on the line. I'm risking I'm at risk, right? But at the end of the day, the question is what is the best thing for the community? And I really don't think that having a team is the right way to go about it. I don't think that this is that kind of project. I understand there are a lot of projects that say we're going to go do not a blockchain, but an ICO, which is going to be a blockchain project. And it essentially is a, security in the fact that I'm not getting into the legal aspects of it now, but it's just the fact that, they say we're going to be this group, we're going to go do this work, right? We're going to make profits from this. We're going to redistribute the profits, in some way, but that isn't what this project is. And it was never claimed to be that way, and no one was ever alluded for it to be that way. And the fact is that as the project has progressed, we've seen this uptick in ICOs, and now it's made it seem like, well, this is what the project should look like. But that's not the case, and I think that would be against the best interest of the community at large. So I see Alex just here said maybe we need to have some sort of council like Neo. I'm honestly open to listening to you guys. Okay, Mkultra, very good point. So Mkultra here said it as a response to my statement. He's saying, well, the issue he has here is, do they as a community really have any power? Meaning that they're not voting on allocating any money or voting on how the internal money gets spent. The team is making all these decisions right now and standing on their principles and controlling the purse strings. But if the team is not making the decisions, then who is? Sure. So, so we need to understand who the team is. Good. Okay. Yes. That it. Okay. So, but right. Let me explain how I see this. I will touch on the purse at the end because I don't want to cause any like preconceived notions first. So let me just explain how I see it with the community. I think that when first being involved in Bitcoin, I think that the issue here is that you want all the coin holders. We want all the coin holders. In culture, it's more than just being a security. It's the fact that it really is not a good reflection of the case. It's not that we just want to. This truly isn't that kind of project. That's not the essence of it. If you say, what's your profit model here? It's not one where we kick back funds from this money we make in this business, right? So what it boils down to here is what it boils down to here is the following, right? If you take something like Bitcoin or Ethereum or whatever it may be, there's a coordination problem. While everyone may be better off taking, let's say, 5% of their funds or 10% of their funds and allocating it to somewhere to a certain cause. That cause may be getting hash power security. That cause may be, let's say, getting having a pool for fund management, whatever the thing may be. It's very hard to get people to open their wallets and contribute. And the reason it's very hard to get people to open their wallets and contribute is because they say, even if the national equilibrium is that we're all better off if each of us contribute, I can't trust anyone that everyone else will contribute, and therefore no one contributes. And this is like the famous prisoner's dilemma game, right? Like you have two prisoners, they can both walk out of the police station, but if only one snitches, they each get like a year in jail, and if both snitch, then they get 10 years in jail, and it ends up that they both snitch on each other because that is the best national equilibrium move. And that's kind of what we see here with fund allocation. So the idea here is that's why we said, okay, we're going to allocate 20% of this fund in the beginning, right? We've always been very strong on the point that not all the funds are going to the miners, that there is multi-hash mining, and we're going to allow the coin holders to decide what they want to do with that money. Now, it could be that everyone says, listen, we just want to take that money that's been mined, and we want to essentially destroy it, so we'll burn it, or we'll distribute it pro rata to coin holdings or whatever. Essentially, get rid of the inflation. You could also say, listen, we understand that because we don't want to have high transaction fees, right now we need to subsidize mining, and so we're going to allocate, X amount of the money to miners, right? And then there's the third thing, which is saying, listen, we also understand that certain things need to be done, and we want to have what I want to call a common goods pool. So essentially, essentially some of the money that would come out of the mining rewards would be dedicated to a pool, and then the users could vote on what that pool is used for. Now, with respect to so in that way, the community would be self-sustaining. I think that you have two benefits from this. One is it gives a community exactly, yes, like exactly in culture, like the initial Dash treasury. The thing here is, unlike Dash, where it's fixed by what, let's say, I would say as 10%, right? I'm sorry, what the Dash team said 10% is going to be the amount. Here we're saying let the community decide what they want to do. They know how much needs to be allocated to inflation due to miners, how much needs to be allocated due to having funds for operative capital, et cetera, et cetera. If you look at today's environment, right, it may be that right now we don't have right now maybe, let's say we have enough hash power based security, but maybe right now the integration. So right now mining is very profitable, right? But the thing we're missing to get the full benefit and decentralization is the fact that we do not have enough let's say good integrations with mining pools. And while they're incentivized, maybe just like we offered a bounty to Provost back in the day, and he made an integration for the miners. Maybe right now it's better to allocate funds to integrating more mining tools than it is to allocating those funds to the miners themselves. Maybe you get a better trade-off in network security that way. That's just one example. Thank you, MCulture. MCulture bought the bounty tokens from Protovist. I guess he wasn't that bullish. Proto. Okay, Proto. Anyways, so that's my take on it. That's my take on the community making decisions. Where do I view the company? I view the development company as being one which has sold the initial right when it was closed source to use the software, and that's how it accrued income. And right now, what I'm promising, as essentially what we've always said, and what we're promising is we're going to use those monies to develop and hire people and build out the protocol as much as we can. And we're going to use our comparative advantage to do, let's say, the heavy lifting ourselves, but it still should be a community project. And if there's people who are specialized in other kinds of knowledge bases, for example, like Protovist, who knew how to do miners maybe a bit better than we did, then I think that while we're more than happy to pay for bounties as well, I think that eventually it just doesn't make sense that 4 times as many coins that then were issued at Genesis be going out just for electricity purposes. I think that they can be allocated better. I'm done talking. Ash, maybe you can more succinctly add something.
The point of that is the company was established to actually bootstrap Zen protocol, actually get it developed initially. Those funds are going to be used responsibly to further the interests, to further Zen protocol, to further its development, and peripheral tools to the protocol. But this should be understood as a community effort, just like Bitcoin. After Satoshi put out the initial release, Bitcoin was a community project. There was no team. Anyone had to. If you saw Bitcoin, you had to say, okay, this is only going to work if I pitch in, and that's what the community is going to have to do. And we have to develop a mechanism for the community to have a say in how future funds are allocated through multi-hash mining, which is what Adam was alluding to. The future of the protocol is not necessarily in our hands. It's in the hands of the community. We don't have any kind of exclusive control over it. I think that's everything I have to say. If you want to move on, Evan.
Yeah, sure. I just want to answer Kultra's comment here. So, okay, so right. So I want to answer here in Kultra's comment. So long term, we need to have the treasury, and he thinks it's a great idea. In the short term, we need to make sure that that things are being used, the funds are being used well to kickstart the operations. Of course, we're trying to do that as best as possible, and let's keep on doing that. No doubt about it. No one is alluding to anything else than doing exactly that. Alex, yeah. Okay, he believes the team has to be tied to the project. Once we deliver the fully developed product, then we can increase the distance. So, I think that, again, sure, there's no. If our goal here is accountability, then sure, tie us to the project. If our goal here is to, I use this analogy, you have a boat and you can either row or you can sail. And I think that the best way for this project to succeed is by providing room and space, as I've said on Telegram a couple of nights ago, providing room and space for other people to come and do that, for other people to come and say, listen, if I won't pick up the ball, then no one else will. Because, personally, the reason I was so enamored by Bitcoin is because I felt that I had, let's say, a responsibility that if I didn't, try to get the word out, if I didn't push it, then this world-changing opportunity wouldn't have happened. And of course, I'm not taking credit for its success, but I'm just saying there were a lot of people out there who felt that that together as a community, we helped Bitcoin succeed. That's also, I think, why, by the way, you see a lot of the early Bitcoiners have taken a step back, not only because maybe they can afford to do so financially, but it's kind of like this feeling of, well, we won, well, we've done our job, and now we can no longer have an influence. And what you want to do is you want to provide people with the ability to feel that they can make a difference, that they're going to have an influence. And if you tell them, hey, there's this team and they're calling the shots and the project is in their hands, then people don't feel any responsibility because they don't think that they can make a difference. They don't think that their work matters. And I understand that. Maybe not everyone agrees with me. But I'm just opening it up for conversation, and perhaps the conversation is sorry, I'm just excuse me, I was reading and talking at the same time, my apologies. I'm just opening up the conversation and saying maybe we should have a well-facilitated discussion of how to go about this, and not try to a well-discussed and well-thought-out discussion rather than shooting off the hip. Because I've heard the comments, and now that I've explained my position, in person, not hiding behind any kind of Telegram, user, anything like that, quote unquote face to face, I think that we should really think of the pros and cons to the move. I see some more comments here, but I see some comments here that saying that there's inflection points, that we're competing against a lot of projects, that days are different. And Crypto Chef saying Blockstack, whatever. Blockstack is, I'm not familiar. And Culture is saying here, yeah, that obviously they stepped back with time. In time, Satoshi stepped back. Now, number one, I'm by no means, nor is anyone in this team probably as talented as, maybe Ash is as talented as Satoshi is. But what I think here is that no one here is stepping away. No one here is stepping away. No one here is trying to evade any responsibility. And if that's a thing, if that's what people are concerned about, is that people want to know that there's like some see that it's not a scam, then let's think about how we do that without alienating people away at the same time, without removing that feeling of, okay, if I don't do it, then it won't get done. I have an obligation, let's say, to go ahead and push this thing forward. Okay, I'm going to go into the next question because okay, yes, Ash derives his superpowers from his hair, so don't fuck with him on that. On exchanges, one second. No, whoever this is, Eric. So Eric, you are right. That is something we need to do. I'm thinking of a public Trello, but we definitely need to make sure that there's a way for people to know what they can do in the most effective way of their time. And I also think that rightfully so, they should be compensated, and more than happy to compensate from the Zens at the company that essentially that have been held on by the team. But going forward, I think that that's the thing we need to facilitate, right? We need to facilitate people to understand what they can do to help, and for a way for them to just for the community to I think communicate a bit better. Although it's being done not badly at all by Crypto Chef on the forums and the Telegram groups. Okay. On exchanges. So we understand the team's principled stance on exchanges. We have heard you loud and clear. However, new customers and users who are not mining coins need a way to buy ZP. We need a larger and more liquid exchange than that which we currently have through Bilixi and Top One. The idea of Cryptopia has been floated, and we think this is a good first step. Please let's not let perfection be the enemy of progress. I completely agree that perfection should not be the enemy of progress. What's happening with Cryptopia? 1 second. Okay, so let me just address the question first. So I'm not sure if Cryptopia is the best exchange, but sure. I thought that the point of that was more to get on CoinMarketCap, which I understand that I believe it was Bilixi has taken steps already to make that happen. But sure, maybe I'm just not familiar with the attractiveness of Cryptopia. So I want to say to you guys the following. Needing customers and users who are not mining coins need a way to buy. Sure, I guess, but I just want to say about our approach. I mean, sorry for the time it's taking me to think a second. I wouldn't say it's principled. What I would say is that our approach is one that reflects as far as I understand, the majority of the interests that are being represented. I think that you have a very loud minority, which makes it seem as if everyone would say, why don't we take all the money and put it all to pay these ridiculous $2-3 million exchange listing fees? I think those are, a loud minority. I think that the majority of people here want to see the project succeed for the long term over a 5-year time horizon. Now, of course, you need to balance the fact that that in the short term, you need to keep the things alive. And if way to keep interest alive is by doing ABC moves, then those moves should be made. But we should all remember that the majority of the efforts need to go into plan A, which is a long-term plan, not into plan B, which is let's flip. And I never gave anyone that impression. No one on the team ever gave anyone that impression. And if they did, please tell me. I'd be more than happy to hear about that privately. Yeah, Ash, what are your thoughts on this?
It's not worth wasting money, wasting funds on short-term efforts. The money we raise in the token sale does have to last, and it's in everyone's best incentive for it to be spent well on long-term efforts. Getting listed on an exchange doesn't actually contribute anything to the project. It doesn't create any kind of value, other than perhaps slightly increased liquidity. Focusing on creating actual economic value is going to be a much better long-term strategy for anyone. It should also be recognized that all of us are also holding ZP. We're also we have the same incentives. Everyone has incentives aligned here. We think it's very important to stress to the community that it's short-sighted to throw away large sums of money on things like this. Eventually, things like exchanges will happen. You can either spend money to have it happen today, or you can wait. And waiting is most likely going to be a better strategy.
Yeah. That's not to say, yeah, I agree with what Ash is saying. 1 second. Okay. Guys, yes, okay, Bitrex, I have a funny story with them, but that will be for a different day. Here's the thing. Guys, yes, we understand exchanges. It's gonna happen. Slowly. I really think that it shouldn't be an area we focus on too much. That's just like that's what I think. I think that, whatever, we launched a month and a half ago Genesis. We're dealing with those issues. We've dealt with those issues. Moving on to the next thing. In Cultura, I don't think if you wanted to, it doesn't matter if you'd be on Binance. I don't think you could buy 250,000 tokens. I agree with Steve. Steve, are you talking about market economics, or what are you discussing when you're saying you don't think listing it right now will help anyone? Yeah. Yeah. I agree with Steve. May have a point there. When is Vinex going live? That's a question to. Yes, I see your guys' points. Steve, can you PM me on Telegram, please? By the way, just out of interest. My name's at Adam Perlow. Okay, let's. I think that's our position. Exchanges, sure, needs to be done. Coin market cap, I think, is happening anyways. Wasting money on this inflationary cycle of, go raise a bunch of money, then pay us a bunch of money, so it pumps that whole shenanigans. I think is kind of ridiculous. 1 second. Okay.
Response to Crypto Chef. Moving on to a Roadshow. I think we're going to have several. There's going to be several events we intend to attend throughout September, at least, where we've planned a schedule that'll keep us quite busy. If you think that's going to be what makes a big difference. In general, I think the best way to build interest in a project is to have the community bring people in, to have organic growth. You can go to conferences and you can pitch to a bunch of people. You can pay for shills for online shills, but this doesn't actually help you very much. The real thing that's going to help any project is to be able to get a very active community that believes in something and is able to contribute to it and is able to bring in their own resources and can bring in their deals and partnerships that they have access to the project. I mean, in reality, like, we can go to a bunch of conferences and do a roadshow, and I'm sure that will help. But the most important thing, I think, is to build the community through personal connections and try and have organic growth there.
I agree with Ash. I think that actually some of the more experienced people who I'm in touch with in this space have said, okay, conferences are for one type of crowd. There's too much noise, not enough signal there right now. It's very hard to get heard. And is it really the best use of your time? Now, having a go-to-market strategy, I absolutely agree. That needs to be something that needs to be done. And taking a concentrated, well thought out effort and execute on that is something that we need to do. But is going to conferences and falling into this, what are we getting out of that necessarily? We're getting market awareness. We're getting the fact that people will be out there and they'll think of us. And I think that, to be honest, the thing we're getting the most is to make sure that the community members and that essentially that people in the crypto markets hear about us. But I think that the economic value we're providing with this protocol is not only focused on crypto markets. It's focused on normal markets that benefit from the advantages that not being the custodian of someone's funds and having this digital bearer instrument system provides you. Okay. So yeah, with regards to the marketing plans, the business development, that kind of stuff. Sure. So sorry, so these questions are popping up as we go. So the overall marketing strategy is to say the following, right? 1 second, sorry. Marketing will only get you can only subsidize something and have it catch on to a certain point. So if you have a business that's losing money, let's say, or that doesn't provide any economic value to users, but you get a bunch of money from a VC and you subsidize and you pay each user $10, right? You may grow to 100,000 users, but then at the end of the day, there's no real economic value being created. Therefore, the business does not succeed. If you look on the other hand, something like Uber, Airbnb, whatever, the reason they're so successful isn't because the entrepreneurs were, I don't know what, good entrepreneurs. Yes, that needs to be, that's an insufficient but necessary condition. So it's a prerequisite to be able to market and to execute into whatever it is, but you also had to have a creation where economic value is truly being created. Now, when we talk about a marketing strategy, we need to go and we need to look at what are the things where the most economic value can be created by a platform like ours. And we need to identify those verticals and then go after them. Now, some of the verticals that we have identified are assets that currently suffer from a big discount because of illiquidity. As you guys may be seeing in the chat right now, Jacob from Vinex is talking about wines, which is a business sector that suffers from that. where essentially, the wineries, they have no way to get a loan from the bank because the bank can't calculate the value of their wine correctly. Then they have problems financing themselves, et cetera, et cetera. So it makes sense for the winery, and the yield is good as well. So it makes sense for the people buying the wine, or the discount is high. So it makes sense for the people to buy early. We're looking at multiple verticals like this. We've been in touch with a bunch of different markets like this. I don't want to discuss things before they're closed, so I don't want to just come out there and make an announcement. But there are a lot of sectors. I'll say real estate, for example, is one of them, where if you made the market more liquid, economic value could be created. So wherever there's a situation where true economic value, not pump value, not crypto market value, but true economic value can be created, that's a market sectors we should be going after. And I'm more than happy to hear the input from the community as a whole. Also, if you identify any of those, I don't think it should be solely, I don't think that I have all the answers. More than happy to hear input, but I guess that the overreaching goal is to try to identify the sectors where the most economic value is created and then copy them, and then infiltrate them. Ash, do you have anything to add on that?
And that's more or less succinct. You have to be able to get real economic value onto the platform. You do that you have to find the right people and understand where this business model applies. You might find these people at crypto conferences. You might find them elsewhere. Unfortunately, there's not a lot of visibility when you go out to search for these people elsewhere. Nevertheless, we will be at crypto. We'll be marketing with content. We're certainly willing to explore several. We're willing to do several things at once on the marketing front, but marketing is not what makes a crypto project actually succeed. It might make it pump, but this is only temporary. Like Adam gave with the example of it, you could raise money as a startup and pay your users. Sure, you might get a lot of users that way, but you won't survive that way. In order to be sustainable, you have to be able to create actual economic value, and marketing creates relatively little of that. It only creates economic value in that you can reach certain people who might have a use case.
Yes. So I got to say that you want to balance between the short, and thank you, Ash. I think that was also a good description. Sorry. Okay, so yes, I agree with Ash here about what he's essentially saying. That, sorry guys, it's hard to read and think at the same time. At the end of the day, what we need to do is we need to also build out our toolkit, right? So we're, as a team, there's certain, let's say, skill sets and certain capacity that needs to be built out, like productive capacity that needs to be built out. So for example, now we're starting with a small project, doing something in real estate. You need to actually build out the expertise and the capacity to be able to deliver on it before you make promises to bigger projects. The thing is, when you say X is building on blockchain or Y is building on blockchain, the other day I had a meeting with Alibaba or someone working at a high guy up at Alibaba saying they are doing something on blockchain. I said, but what are you doing? It doesn't matter. It's on blockchain, and that's the point. The point to say is we're involved in blockchain. But if you want to do something else beyond that, there's no way that you can close a big partnership or something that's newsworthy right now when you don't have the capacity to execute on it, unless you're just full of it. But if you're not full of it, right, you have to start and build this capacity, build the knowledge base, whether it's building the right team, whether it's integrating the team with the right skill sets and knowledge, whether it's having the right, let's say, call it business stack, that you can say, okay, if this is what you want to do, this is how you go about doing it. And sure, you can accelerate that process by getting the right people, the right advisors, the right partners. But at the end of the day, you need to build these skills in-house, right? Or you need to have at least access to these skills and access to this experience before you go ahead and do it. All these partners are saying, we have a partnership here, we have a partnership there, we have this. Like, that is the state of crypto in 2017, 2018, right? I hate to sound like saying, oh, I'm better than anyone else, but I am going to say that these partnerships, quote unquote, that they're doing, where nothing is actually being done, that's not our style, and it's false traction. There is no real traction happening there. All that's happening is people making a joke of themselves, saying they're going to do ABC on the blockchain with zero chance of happening, and essentially selling penny stocks. And so I'm not afraid of that competition. I'm afraid of the guy who I don't know about, who's working in his basement. I'm not afraid of the guy yelling and saying, you know, we're on the blockchain, we're all in the conferences. Look, I'm not afraid of those people. Those people don't threaten me because I understand the incentives of those people, right? Their incentive is to take the money while it's good, walk away and go home. They're mercenaries, they're not missionaries. And so I just don't care, to be honest, about that stuff. I'm aware there's competition. I'm aware that there's a time to market, but I'm not concerned by these behemoths. Let's put it that way. Okay.
So Alex, you said there's plenty of real estate projects out there, but they're mostly building on ETH. Whether or not they are building on ETH or not is dubious. There are plenty of projects who have come out and said, we're going to do this. Very few have materialized. We've seen a lot of projects claiming all kinds of project goals that have not yet materialized. In part, this is due to the incentives, that most of these projects don't have an actual incentive to deliver. More importantly, is that most of these projects aren't creating any actual economic value. It's quite a shame, really, that we've seen such little actual useful financial activity going on in decentralized markets. It's beneficial for us, I suppose, but in general, quite a shame. But the reason that has been allowed to happen is because there are very few people in crypto who are actually incentivized to try and make these things happen. There are also relatively few people who are willing to invest the resources into making sure that they're able to execute on these things. You can't just walk into a conference room with a major player in a different industry and say, okay, perfect, we know everything, we're going to get you onto the blockchain. It doesn't work that way. You actually have to understand their business model, understand how you can bring value to them. And that's not something that many are going to take the time to do, but if they can just make a quicker buck by pumping, by announcing deals that aren't going anywhere.
Yeah. 1 second. Okay, so in culture, you're saying there's a company that need help implementing their project on a blockchain right now. Sure. So I'd love to hear what that company is, and then if it would be something that would actually benefit from the blockchain, maybe we can help them. If the project is going to be is not going to benefit from the blockchain, yes. Sorry, just let me answer in culture, crypto shift. You're the man. So yeah. Yeah, we would help if it makes sense that this project would actually succeed on the blockchain. CryptoShift is asking, once all the planned developments are implemented on the platform, will you guys look into developing some use cases on Zen Protocol yourselves? Yes. I also think that, for example, one of these projects that that essentially we've shaken hands on, but I don't want to announce yet publicly, was my initiative. It had to do something with real estate. So it was like in partnership. I set up the model. I came and essentially we discussed it with them, and so we'll work with like we can work on projects, build projects on ZP ourselves. Usually it's better to work with another party, but definitely more than happy to come in and handhold. And that's what I consider, being the biz dev of like creating these opportunities. We're saying, okay, maybe we understand what the best product market fit for Zen is. Let's go ahead and make sure that we target these people who could fit into that sector and use them to build on us. And then we also get to like, sharpen our teeth on the experiences we have with them. Okay.
Right. With regards to MK Ultra saying, I think it should be the position of ZP to tell partners whether or not the project is going to benefit from blockchain. Maybe they're saying something team's not. That's not how these things happen. You don't meet with someone and say, no, don't use the blockchain. You try and understand in which ways that you can help them. A lot of people are not very familiar with these kind of technologies. You get a lot, you do find a lot of people inquiring into these things at conferences and also privately. They've heard about blockchain, they're interested in what they can do, but they have no idea about anything. They just want to see where it can go. You're not going to tell someone, no, you can't benefit from blockchain unless you've very seriously evaluated it. Ordinarily, you're trying to find the ways in which something can benefit from blockchain. But you're not going to lie about that. You're not going to say, you're going to have blockchain in your fridge. It's not realistic. And it doesn't provide value to anyone. There's no point in deceiving anyone that way, either to partners or to investors.
Thank you, Eric. I agree as well. What products do we see as the closest threats to ZP? I think I couldn't tell by looking at the project itself. I want to see the people, their intentions, what their time horizon is. I kind of don't want to. I think that one of our competitive advantages, let's say, is our understanding of the space. Sometimes I don't want to give up that knowledge by saying, who could compete with us or what the exact plan of action is, because I think there's some very appetizing, low-hanging fruits that is just like whoever's first to market. But I'd say, vaguely, financial institutions are, hedge funds, prop trading firms, people who are they have good grounding and standing in the current financial system, yet they're still nimble enough to be able to, do something that a bank couldn't. That's something I think of. I think that, to be, I guess, honest, if it's out there, I think that something like what Trust Token is doing is probably important. That's all I want to, I guess, give away at this point. Maybe I even said too much there, but I don't know. Yeah, that's. I don't know, Ash. What do you think?
I think the only way a project is going to pose a threat that I would consider is if it seems like they have a realistic plan of bringing on some new kind of business model, and turning these things into crypto assets, or actually bringing value to people through these kinds of technologies. I think there have been people are starting to understand what blockchain is for, what it's actually useful for. You see a lot of people talking about doing these things. Fortunately for us, very few people have actually started executing on them. When people start talking about bringing on assets, this is a real form of value, being able to hold your own assets, being the custodian of your own assets. Bringing on assets to a platform is not necessarily easy to do, but it does create real value. And if people are then trading assets through your crypto system, you've then brought that value onto your platform. I'm familiar with a few projects who have said that they're going to bring certain assets into decentralized cryptocurrencies from all kinds of things like basic commodities like bananas to people claiming that they're going to bring on national currencies. Any of these things are fantastic, but unfortunately very few of them really exist yet. I repeat, I would start to feel threatened if I saw a platform starting to bring on a lot of these things.
So, Culture, you're saying what if ZP put their own ideas out there for exactly the type of project that would be great on ZP? Like I said, I think that part of our competitive advantage is maybe the ability to better navigate the waters, which is why I want to disclose, one step ahead, I think, at least on this forum. But yeah, I think Trust Token is a model that is something that we would, like, not the token part, but the trust. The trusts are a thing that which could be interesting to us. We'd be willing to help and assist financially, technically, in every single manner for someone who would do a Trust Token kind of model with us, for us, or like not for us, like for the community. Yeah. Sorry, Ash, go ahead.
So, Eric, regarding Eric asked, I think there's 2 items remaining on the agenda. Call for developers and projects and roadmap. I can address the roadmap. We do intend to publish, I suppose, an updated roadmap. Everything that we intend to include in the YESOD release, our version 2 release, which I think will be happening. That's in end of December, isn't it? So we will publish that. I can actually talk about things that we intend to include now. I think one thing that we'd like to work on very much is multi-hash mining. Like we've seen that a lot of issuance is being used to subsidize mining. But whilst the network is being secured by this, the network has a relatively large amount of hash power and is very secure. It's still not getting as much security as it should for the issuance. The community may wish to divert these into certain things. So it's important to be able to put this to the community. So we want to work on multi-hash mining and establishing some kind of, or putting it up to the community to establish some kind of common goods pool. Of course, the community could also reject such a proposal. Aside from that, we also intend to get actual oracles running on Zen. This is on the time frame of within a couple of weeks. After that, we should have example applications actually using these oracles, and hopefully some instruments that make use of real-world data. Am I forgetting anything, Adam?
Yeah, since we don't want to, I guess, talk about anything before we have it shut, then yeah. Let me just double check. Yeah, those are the things for the short term. Obviously, we're also, like we said, expanding the team. Yes, we need a marketing guy. We need a biz dev guy. I think that and culture saying let's not let perfection be the enemy of progress, which I agree with. It's best to do something than always search for like Mr. Perfect. On the other hand, there's a high cost in taking someone, realizing that they don't fit, replacing them. It's like there's a lot of resources invested in this. I've been there. So and the problem is right now in this market, everyone who's good and knows crypto is working for someone doing an ICO. So finding good talent is difficult. Maybe in the financial world, it may be a bit easier. Hopefully, when we go on the roadshow in September, we'll be able to find some community members who can help us who are good candidates for that. Thank you, Nkultra, for the compliment that you understand we're working hard. I appreciate it. It's always good for me. It's always good for me and also the rest of the team to hear that it's being appreciated, that we work hard. Crypto Chef, maybe put a career section on the website footer. Yes, that may be a good idea to make it more easily visible what exactly we're looking for. And like I said, we're looking for people to do marketing, marketing like in the crypto world, biz dev, in the finance world. So people with experience in Wall Street. We're looking for a full stack, a full stack front end oriented developer and a back end engineer which has experience in functional programming, or like with preference, obviously F#, if not Haskell, or at least very good familiarity with .NET. Ash, do you have anything to add on that front?
Camel is good as well. Camel's called any functional languages would be a plus. Also, formal verification technologies is useful, but not less really. Knowing functional programming is more or less essential. Having a good familiarity with .NET is a plus.
So, like I've said multiple times, sorry, not multiple times, like more than happy to discuss it again. So yeah, with regards to, I don't think blockchain is a thing, and I think we should wrap up soon because we don't want this to get too long because we want people to be able to see it. But I think that I don't think blockchain is a thing for developers as much as it's a tool to do a certain thing. Just like a plane isn't a toy for engineers. You have engineers, who build planes because people need to fly. The same way I feel like a blockchain is, you have people developing for a blockchain because people need to use that blockchain for a certain thing. And I think that Ethereum got that the other way around, and that's created a lot of confusion. But we see at the end of the day, when push comes to shove, nothing, absolutely nothing beyond Ash, maybe you can phrase it funnily about the position here about Ethereum versus, if you feel comfortable, versus like what's reality.
Yeah, sure. So a lot of people like to say, okay, well, there's Ethereum already exists. Why bother? You already have this like actually decentralized, relatively popular project that can do anything. Why bother creating something else? And there's this dissonance, I suppose. You see that you have such a major project like Ethereum, and nothing really is happening there. Like, for a project of that scope, you'd expect much more to be coming out of it. You'd expect many more applications, like real applications, not just ICOs, to be actually using Ethereum, and it's happening. So you have a lot of projects that exist kind of as a response to this. People have said, okay, maybe nothing is happening in Ethereum because its smart contracting language sucks. Maybe nothing is happening because it's too slow. Maybe nothing is happening because it doesn't have the support of the Chinese government. Maybe nothing's happening because Ethereum's governance sucks. All kinds of reasons. People try and justify it in all kinds of ways. And maybe some of those ways are right. I'm sure they will contribute. But in reality, I think the reason Ethereum hasn't done anything is because there's nothing to do with it. Ethereum was designed to be this kind of decentralized virtual machine. It wasn't a response to a market need. It was that this came about because people were trying to do more and more elaborate tokens on Mastercoin, and they said instead of having to fork Mastercoin whenever we want to add something new, we'll create something that has a virtual machine, do whatever you want. In reality, though, this hasn't actually been useful. In reality, no one was really trying to do computation on Mastercoin in the first place. There are a couple of projects that were maybe talking about it. I think Talchain, actually an Israeli project, but they gave up on that for some reason. He also decided that it wasn't an important thing to do. What we've seen so far with something like Ethereum is that people are trying to tokenize assets. That's the main thing. The people want bearer instruments. This is what ERC20s are. You also have non-fungible assets. In reality, ERC20s aren't necessarily fungible, but you have definitely non-fungible assets as well, but these are nonetheless assets. The main utility, the main thing people are trying to do is to have programmable assets and programmable transactions. Those are what are actually important. And that's what we've designed this to do. You can look at a system that's designed to do anything and say that anything is going to happen. People say that, people are going to rent out their computers and contribute power, or people are going to develop AIs on Ethereum. But it's not going to happen. That's not a real utility. The real utility is for financial applications, for people being able to own their own assets, and more broadly for people to be able to create assets with programmable conditions so that you can trust in these assets without having to have some kind of third party to execute contracts. Programmable assets and programmable transactions are the only useful thing that's coming out of this. It's not like social media, advertising, mobile gaming is peripheral. We're going to be the ones who are going to focus on creating an actual financial ecosystem. We're not going to waste our resources on making sure that CryptoKitties happens, making sure that people can create decentralized social networks or whatever other frivolous and useless projects. We have a strong position in what this kind of technology is actually useful for, and we're going to pursue that. And we're not going to waste our time on other things. We're creating the tools for finance to happen on the platform. That's our only focus. We're not focused around making sure that CryptoKitties is able to execute. So I think that's a market advantage over Ethereum. Aside from actually being able to create a better technology stack and more focused technology. Even aside from that, having the focus, being able to say that we're focused on a particular thing rather than being overly general about it because we don't want to take a position, that's a huge difference. If you look at most other large projects for smart contracting platforms, what is the focus of Neo? What is the focus of Tezos? What is the focus of Cardano? Or none of these projects have a focus. They're going to do whatever it is that blockchain is useful for, and they're not willing to take a position. And in reality, this means that they're going to spend a lot of time, they're going to waste a lot of time trying to bring on useless projects, trying to work with useless projects, and creating no economic value. And that's what we're going to do differently.
Thank you, Ash. I think that was a very good explanation, very coherent and very aligned with exactly how I feel. I think that at the end of the day, we have a better technology. We do have a better mousetrap. Honestly, we have a better mousetrap. It's not that we just go ahead and we say it and it's not true. No, work has been done, technical innovations have been made, and we do have a better technical architecture. But at the same time, what it's about at the end of the day, the reason, the motivation for that technical architecture was understanding having a certain premise and thesis on the product market fit. And so to go back to the question of how are the funds going to be used, the funds are going to be used to take the let's say the highest ROI opportunities that fit into that premise, that fit into that thesis, I guess, and to execute on them. The world life is stochastic, so I can't tell you right now exactly what that thing will be. I know that that's not a very good answer to hear, because people want to hear, okay, we're going to do A, B, C, and that's here. While I think very strongly about having a direction, I'm not sure exactly what each step will be. I can tell you that again, that like we're identifying a market that's illiquid and going after that market and building the skill set necessary to execute in that market, and hopefully being able to scale this up to multiple markets. I think once you have 3 or 4 markets, which all benefit from financial instruments but aren't blockchain necessarily related, Vinix is the one that right now we talk about, then all of a sudden people will say, wait, 1 second, there's actually people using this thing and we actually understand why it makes sense. And if those guys like understood the like basic 1 + 1, maybe we should go talk to them, because maybe those are the guys that I, as a businessman, let's say, want to work with, rather than, I sit sometimes in meetings and I hear like people don't think very highly, some people don't think very highly of some of the projects in this space, I guess. And I guess that's also why we kind of get a good amount of deal flow. We're just kind of picky and we tell people straight up, listen, it may be that this, like after hearing what you had to say, maybe that you're not really a good fit for blockchain. I don't know, but I know that's maybe something that I'm being too blunt here in the team, or being too extremist, or thinking that I know better too much. And I'm sorry for that. I just kind of want to save some people some time. I don't know. I guess that's more or less it. Ash, do you have any other thoughts?
There's some Alex who disagrees. Everyone of other smart contract platforms wants to be the next Ethereum, doesn't want to focus on just one sector. Yes, although it's dubious what they're actually achieving by trying to be the next Ethereum. Ethereum is the next Ethereum. Like these projects are not static. They develop over time. Well, some projects have distinct differences. Like maybe, Ethereum probably isn't going to get the support of the Chinese government like Neo might. Not having the support of the Chinese government was not the reason that Ethereum has failed to actually do anything. Whilst it might be nice to, as an ICO platform, there's a lot of liquidity there, sure, but at the end of the day, if you're not creating any kind of actual value, that can't be sustainable. And someone else is going to create value, and they are going to usurp that position. If you're just trying to usurp the ICO market, which is of dubious value anyway, you're not accomplishing much. Again, we can also play the same game. I can also say, okay, Ethereum's language sucks, Ethereum is slow, whatever, and we also have benefits in those domains. It's not necessarily difficult to build something better. Ethereum is flawed in many ways. Most systems are. Regardless, just Ethereum being flawed in those ways isn't. That's not where economic value is created. Saying we'll fix these issues in Ethereum is not the same as saying we'll fix these issues in broader markets and actually correct market inefficiencies. They're vastly different things. Most of these projects, Cardano, Neo, Tesla, are not going out, any of the Ethereum contenders, they're not going out saying we're going to create more economic value than Ethereum. They're saying we're going to fix a small thing in Ethereum that Ethereum might fix later anyway. For some things they can and for some they can't. It's not as much of a. It's just not significant. You can say you're going to fix these things, but if you don't create value, it's not really worthwhile.
I want to say here, I see the comments here. The thing that my point here isn't, I'm not pointing this stuff, neither me or Ash, I don't think we're pointing this stuff to say, listen, Ethereum isn't good. I don't think we've once said Ethereum has, our focus isn't saying, oh, it has this technical problem or it has that issue. No, that's not the point I'm making. I don't think Ash is making either. The point is to say that the premise itself in the first place is flawed, okay? Like, we're not fighting Ethereum because I guess I don't view Ethereum really as a competitor. Sure, it also provides you a platform where you can create these assets, but it's not what it's going after. What I'm trying to say here is the reason I opened up this topic again is to explain that the same reason I'm not like the same reason I'm quote unquote shit talking, sorry for the language, Ethereum is for the same reason I'm saying that that the premise that, oh, we have to show interest by getting all these partnerships is fundamentally flawed. Okay, partnerships does not mean anything in an era where anyone will just say like, who's in the cool kids club? That's not what we're here. It's not worth any of anyone's time. It's not worth my time. It's not worth Ash's time. It's not worth your guys' time who are listening to this podcast right now. It's not worth the time. It's not worth the money. It's not worth anything. That's not like what should be going after. So when we're saying, well, why don't we see interest? I'm not sure that you don't see. I think we do see interest. I think that it's just that we aren't focusing on making a lot of noise about it, just like we aren't focusing on doing whatever Ethereum is doing. I'm just saying that we are not trying to position ourselves as a competitor to Ethereum. And the reason that sounds like we're saying bad things about it is because we're just saying the reason we're not trying to do that is because we fundamentally do not think that their premise is correct. And what we do think is that economic value can be created by having a system that does not require third parties to allow you to transact and to issue bearer instruments, and that such a system needs to have support for multiple instruments, and it needs to have support for decentralized escrow mechanisms, because that's what you lose once you take out third parties, which both facilitate the custodianship and they act as an escrow for deals, and put those things together, and then bring assets onto the platform and bring real world, not crypto world, real world liquidity onto the platform. That's just the way I see, the cookie crumbling, let's say, in the long term. That's it. That's all I have to say. Ash, do you have anything to add? Ash, your microphone is on.
With regards to MK Ultra, I said that there are real people out there that want to have their application. There are real people out there that have applications that would work great on the blockchain. So how do we reach those people? The thing to do is to tell these people how the blockchain can actually benefit them and direct them to people who can help them to realize this. Realize in the sense of actually develop something, develop a real plan and execute on it. That's it. You have to find the people that might benefit from something, tell them why they benefit, and get them in touch with someone who can actually help them to execute. And yeah, they're not technical. They don't go to conferences. You do have to know where to find them. And as Adam has been saying earlier in this podcast, you do need to build up the expertise in these business domains to actually be able to approach these people understand their industry and how you can benefit them. It is very possible to get in touch with these people once you realize the applications.
Oh, okay. I think that for us, I think that we're good. I think that I'm more than happy to continue this conversation on Telegram as well. I don't want someone to see like I wanted to keep it at an hour so people actually watch this video. So more than happy to continue the conversation later, and we'll have this kind of podcast in another 2 weeks. So it's not like we're going anywhere, and we'll be here in another 2 weeks to follow up with you on these issues. Thank you guys, and thank you everyone for participating. Have a good day.